The emotional weight behind King Charles's decision is impossible to ignore. By removing titles from his own son and nieces, Charles didn't just send political message, he severed deep family bonds. Harry's ongoing public condemnations and personal revelations had already strained their relationship, but this final act, unannounced and irreversible, marked a turning point. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Harry's ongoing public condemnations and personal revelations had already strained their relationship, but this final act, unannounced and irreversible, marked a turning point. For Beatrice and Eugenie, who kept a lower profile, the decision came amid whispers of covert defiance and hidden allegiances. The purge wasn't just about control. It was a father's stark choice to prioritize crown over kin. The fallout has fractured the royal family's internal landscape. Strategic silence from key figures like Prince William only add to the sense of division and unease. Camilla's steady influence behind the scenes is becoming more apparent, shaping a monarchy that now values discipline over tradition, distance over sentiment. The question now is whether these sacrifices and personal loyalty will strengthen the crown or erode it from within. At exactly 9 a.m., behind gilded palace doors, King Charles III signed off on what might be the most ruthless royal shakeup in modern history. No press conference, no ceremonial speech, no Buckingham Palace balcony moment. Just a cold, quiet decree stripping Prince Harry, Princess Beatrice, and Princess Eugenie of every remaining title, honor, and royal responsibility they had left. Effective immediately. And just like that, 3 members of the royal bloodline were erased from the books. Not suspended, not reassigned. Completely cut out. It wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't impulsive. This purge was months in the making, deliberate, strategic, and calculated to land like a thunderclap across the monarchy. And the timing? Impeccable, executed around significant royal anniversaries and public events, to deliver the maximum punch, with minimum public warning. Charles wasn't just sending a message. He was dropping a guillotine. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. This wasn't a disciplinary slap on the wrist. This was a full-blown restructuring, a king flexing his power to centralize control, silence dissent, and wipe out what he and his advisors now consider liabilities inside the royal system. And topping that list, Prince Harry. After years of bombshell interviews, memoirs, leaked audio, and relentless criticism of the crown, Harry had already become the royal family's biggest public headache. But what truly pushed things over the edge was his shift from disgruntled prince to full-blown activist against the monarchy. His media tour wasn't just emotional, it was explosive. And somewhere between the Spotify drama, Netflix specials, and unfiltered interviews, it became clear Harry wasn't just complaining. He was campaigning. He broke the unspoken rule of royal survival. You don't torch the institution you come from and expect to stay in the club. But here's the twist no one saw coming. He wasn't the only one. Enter Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. 4 years. The York sisters stayed largely out of the headlines, floating quietly on the royal sidelines. But behind closed doors, a storm had been building. Quiet resistance. Strategic moves. And now, a full-blown legal challenge. Because while Charles was busy cleaning house, Beatrice and Eugenie were calling in lawyers, digging into historical statutes, exploring whether a king, any king, can even revoke hereditary titles unilaterally. And if this challenge gains traction, it's not just about them. It threatens the very foundation of how royal legitimacy is defined in the UK and across the Commonwealth. If Charles thought they'd go quietly, he clearly underestimated the York sisters. QC UK royal family. And fueling the tension even more, Queen Camilla. While Charles signed the decree, Camilla was right there, quietly orchestrating behind the scenes, shaping strategy, and pulling influence like a seasoned chess player. Her role in this purge wasn't ceremonial. It was critical. She's been pushing for a monarchy that's streamlined, efficient, and drama-free. And that means cutting ties, no matter how royal the bloodline. This wasn't about emotion. It was about optics, control, survival. To Charles and Camilla, sentimentality is a luxury the modern monarchy can't afford anymore. And if that means exiling your own son and nieces from the royal ecosystem, so be it. But let's be clear, this wasn't just a political power move. It was personal. For Charles, this decision cut deep. Stripping Harry wasn't just about public image. It was a father sacrificing his relationship with his own child for the sake of the throne. The emotional fallout behind palace walls has been described as chaotic. This wasn't a smooth transition. This was trauma. The shock didn't stay confined to the palace gates. The media went into a frenzy. Global headlines screamed everything from historic move to royal betrayal. Half the world applauded Charles for standing firm. The other half called him ruthless, vindictive, even tyrannical. And what made it worse? The radio silence. No official palace statement. No interviews. Not even a vague press release. Meanwhile, Harry didn't stay quiet. In a raw, spontaneous interview, some say unplanned, others say perfectly timed, he went straight for the royal jugular. Accusations of manipulation, gaslighting, emotional abuse, the kind of public confrontation that leaves no room for reconciliation. He painted the monarchy not as a family, but as a machine, a cold, transactional institution where loyalty is demanded, not earned, and love, optional. And while that interview shook public opinion, it also triggered full-blown crisis mode behind palace walls. Charles may have been trying to take control of the narrative, but Harry yanked it right back, turning a royal restructuring into an international spectacle of dysfunction. And here's where it gets even messier. The York sisters, now publicly silent but legally mobilized, aren't just trying to get their titles back. They are challenging the authority of the crown itself. If they succeed, it could rewrite centuries of royal precedent, not just in the UK, but everywhere the monarchy still has symbolic influence. It's not just a family dispute anymore. It's a constitutional crack forming at the core of royal power. And while all this unfolded, who was noticeably missing? Prince William. No statements, no appearances, no leaks, just eerie, calculated silence. And that silence, it's loud. People are asking, where does he stand? Is he backing his father? Is he distancing himself from the chaos? Or is he quietly preparing for a succession plan that's already being reshaped in real time? Because here's the brutal truth. This isn't just a scandal. It's a succession crisis. And the casualties aren't just Harry, Beatrice, and Eugenie. It's their children, too. Their names, their status, their place in the line of succession, wiped out or buried in ambiguity. It's a clean break. No room for ambiguity. No half in, half out. If you're not fully loyal, you're gone. Which brings us back to the bigger picture. This isn't just about family drama. This is about monarchy survival. Charles is trying to evolve the institution into something more modern, more manageable. Something that can survive TikTok scrutiny, tabloid chaos, and constitutional questions. But here's the cost. The very things that once gave the monarchy its mystique, lineage, tradition, family, are being dismantled from the inside. This isn't evolution. It's self-amputation. And no matter how polished the palace PR becomes, no matter how many silent walkabouts or photo ops they stage, the cracks are showing. Charles has drawn a hard line. You're either in or you're out. No exceptions. But what happens when the people who are out don't go quietly? When they go public? When they lawyer up? When they drag ancient royal laws into modern courtrooms and force a reckoning that no one in the palace ever planned for? What happens when the royal family, built on centuries of unbroken bloodlines, starts bleeding from within? This is where we are now, not just in a messy chapter of royal history, but possibly at the beginning of a complete rewrite. Because if the King of England can revoke titles from his own son and nieces without warning, just to tighten his grip on an aging institution, then the question isn't whether the monarchy is modernizing. The question is whether it's surviving. And if it is, at what cost? Let us know what you think. Has King Charles saved the monarchy or fractured it beyond repair? Are the York sisters fighting for legacy or just stirring the pot? And will Harry's Scorched Earth campaign ever find resolution? Don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button if you're here for the next chapter of Royal Chaos. This saga is far from over. Let's be clear, this wasn't just a bad day for palace PR. This was a full-on unraveling of royal mythos in real time. The kind of drama that makes a crown look like a children's cartoon. And now that the royal axe has fallen, there's no walking it back. You have to understand, this kind of title removal isn't just a bureaucratic shuffle. It's erasure. In royal terms, it's social annihilation. You're not just uninvited from trooping the color. You're stripped of the very identity you were born into. Coat of arms? Gone. Security detail? Don't count on it. Access to palatial property and privileges? Out the window. For Harry, this is the final nail in a coffin he arguably started building himself. But for Beatrice and Eugenie, this was personal. 4 years, they were the buffer zone, the royal middle class. Not quite senior royals, but still royal enough to attend state events and hold honorary patronages. They weren't throwing grenades at the institution. They weren't making documentaries. They played nice, and still got cut. Which begs the question, what exactly did they do? Well, apparently, just being adjacent to controversy was enough. Royal insiders have long whispered about the York sisters' private alliances, with Harry, with Andrew, and with causes that don't exactly scream palace approved. And when things started heating up, they didn't sit on their hands. They went to lawyers. Not PR teams. Not palace courtiers. Lawyers. And let's not forget the optics. 3 family members, 2 daughters of the disgraced Prince Andrew and 1 globally recognized rebel prince, cleanly removed in one stroke. Not a coincidence. It's an image reset. Charles wants a monarchy that's slim, obedient, and controllable. Not one haunted by rogue elements. In other words, if you're not part of the curated narrative, you're expendable. And this was the moment he proved it. Now, of course, this isn't just a family feud anymore. It's a constitutional powder keg. The York sisters are reportedly digging into archaic legal frameworks to determine whether Charles even can revoke hereditary titles without parliamentary approval or due process. And if that sounds boring, think again. This could be the legal bombshell that blows open centuries of royal protocol. If Beatrice and Eugenie succeed in court, even partially, it sets a dangerous precedent that a monarch's absolute authority over titles isn't as absolute as it's always been assumed. And what then? Do other former royals start challenging past removals? Do governments across the Commonwealth reevaluate how much power the Crown still holds over its people, royal or not? This is a crack in the dam. And once it breaks, you can't stop the flood. But in all this, Camilla's role can't be ignored. The Queen Consort, once dubbed the most hated woman in Britain, is now quietly rebranding herself as the monarchy's iron hand. She's not giving interviews. She's not chasing sympathy. She's maneuvering behind closed doors, guiding Charles toward decisions that prioritize stability over sentimentality. And say what you will, she's effective. She understands that nostalgia can't keep a monarchy afloat. Sentiment doesn't silence scandal. So she's cutting deadweight and closing ranks. If it feels cold, it's because it is. That's the point. And the result? A monarchy that feels more like a corporate brand than a family. Tidy, curated, ruthlessly pruned. But here's the danger. When you strip away the emotional core, what's left? If the royal family becomes just another institution with logos and legalese, how is it different from a government office? And that's where this whole thing starts to feel hollow, because the British monarchy has always survived on illusion, fairy tales, tradition, lineage. Once you rip away the magic, all that's left is power. And power, when exposed, doesn't look regal. It looks calculated. It looks like a father disowning his son on paper. It looks like a king erasing his nieces because they might be inconvenient. It looks like monarchy not as destiny, but as PR management. And for a public already jaded by scandals, from Andrew's disgrace to Meghan and Harry's tell-alls, this is yet another blow to royal credibility. Let's talk about that silence from Prince William again, because it's more than just awkward. It's suspicious. Where does he stand in all this? His next in line. He'll inherit the crown. His loyalty to his father should be a given. But the fact that it said nothing, publicly or even through the usual palace source channels, suggests that it's either being strategic or is deeply conflicted. And both options are a little terrifying. If he supports the purge, then we're watching a monarchy double down on division. If he's hesitant, Then there's a quiet war brewing between the generations, one that might spill over when the crown eventually passes. Because let's be honest, William isn't just Charles 2.0. He's had his own scandals to navigate, his own image to protect, and now he's watching his family combust from the inside. And all the while, is being groomed to represent unity, duty, and modern royalty. How do you sell that brand when your own family's been blown to pieces? Meanwhile, public reaction is split straight down the middle. Some royalists are cheering this as a long overdue cleanup, a bold move to protect the crown from internal rot. Others see it as a grotesque overreach, a monarchy eating its young in a desperate bid to stay relevant. And the press? Feeding off every second. Front pages flip between calling Charles a reformer and a despot. Talk shows debate the legality, the morality, the strategy. Social media is a war zone, supporters and critics hurling takes like digital grenades. But underneath it all, one truth remains. The monarchy has never looked more fragile. And if the goal was to restore trust, this wasn't the way. Because now, every smiling royal photo op will be shadowed by the question, who's next? Who's safe? Who's expendable? It's no longer about titles. It's about survival. And that survival is being bought at the cost of relationships, reputation, and maybe, just maybe, the monarchy's very soul. We're watching history shift in real time, not with revolutions or rebellions, but with legal petitions and silent cuts. This is a new royal warfare, cold, strategic, and devastating. And what happens next? That's the real cliffhanger. Will the York sisters' legal challenge ignite a constitutional firestorm? Will Harry go further in his crusade against the firm? Will Charles maintain control, or will this backfire into the very chaos he was trying to avoid? It's not a fairy tale anymore. It's palace politics. Brutal, bare, and broadcast for all to see. Let's not sugarcoat it. What just happened wasn't a family meeting gone wrong. It was a full-scale bloodline reset. The monarchy has always relied on a delicate balance. Tradition on one side, adaptability on the other. But what we saw here, that balance just got torched. With the stroke of a pen, King Charles essentially declared that blood isn't thicker than protocol. That loyalty trumps legacy. And that titles, those glittering, centuries-old badges of royal identity, can be treated like expired parking passes. It's the kind of move that makes people whisper, what else can he do? Because if a king can erase his own son and his own nieces, what's sacred in them all? And don't think the message was lost on the rest of the family. The ripple effects of this go far beyond Harry, Beatrice, and Eugenie. Everyone inside that gilded fishbowl is now looking over their shoulder. Because Charles didn't just redraw the royal line, he reminded everyone that he holds a pen. Even loyalists must be rattled. The ones who thought staying quiet and following the script would guarantee protection. Because now they know, it doesn't. There are no guarantees. Only usefulness. And if that usefulness runs out, so might their place in the firm. This wasn't just a political maneuver. It was psychological warfare. A warning shot dressed as a royal document. It said, I'm willing to cut off my own flesh and blood if it means tightening the crown. And the silence inside the palace since? Deafening. Because how do you spin this? You can't. That's why no one's trying. Not yet. No sympathetic palace source. No friendly leak to a newspaper. Just cold, hard distance. Because even the best PR team can't slap a filter on a royal excommunication. What's unfolding now is the most brutally honest portrait of the monarchy we've seen in decades. No fairy tale, no grace and favor illusion. Just raw power dynamics, laid bare. And speaking of power, let's revisit Camilla for a second. Because while Charles signed the order, you can bet Camilla helped draft the blueprint. This is her playbook too. For over a decade, Camilla has quietly reshaped her image, from scandalous third party to royal matriarch. And now, she's wielding real influence. Not just as queen consort, but as a power broker within the firm. She's not here for nostalgia. She's not here for teary family reunions. She's here to make the monarchy functional, whatever that means, and whatever it costs. And make no mistake, this cost is steep. Because there's no world where this move doesn't leave permanent scars. Publicly and privately, families don't come back from this. Not intact. For Harry, it's yet another layer of betrayal. A final, irreversible cut from the institution he once tried to navigate, then criticize, then escape. It cements his role as the outsider, not just emotionally, but officially, and for all his public defiance, that still hurts. Because when you're born into royalty, you don't just lose titles, you lose identity. Same goes for Beatrice and Eugenie. For all their royal fringe status, those titles were more than just formality. They were access, protection, stature. And now, they are just former princesses with a legal mountain to climb, and a very public fall from grace. And let's talk about that legal mountain for a minute. The York sisters aren't going quietly. They are not just licking their wounds, they are loading their arsenal. Using historical statutes and legal frameworks, they are reportedly challenging Charles' authority to revoke hereditary titles by fiat. And this isn't just some symbolic tantrum. If they succeed, even partially, it blows a massive hole in the idea of unchallenged royal power.